Lenny would have definitely chose.
Okay, be loud and start over.
Would I rather be killed by my best friend or my enemy? I'd have to say my enemy, because getting killed by my best friend would be kind of harsh. I'd feel a lot of backstabbing, but I guess it sounds kind of bad, but if I was killed by my enemy, there might be a reason behind it instead of just nonsense.
I would rather be killed by my worst enemy so my best friend wouldn't live with the guilt.
I would prefer to be killed by my best friend because I don't want to give my worst enemy the satisfaction.
If I had a choice, I would rather be killed by my best friend.
I would rather be killed by my worst enemy.
So I'd rather have my best friend kill me. If my best friend stabbed me, I feel like it would feel a lot better than some terrifying, guy I didn't know or guy who was my worst enemy. Because if it was my worst enemy, I would feel like all that defeat inside me. And if my best friend stabbed me, I'd just be really confused. And by the time I'd figured it out, I'd already be dead.
Deep.
I feel like Lenny would have chosen death over an asylum, because maybe up in heaven he could get the rabbits that he wanted.
Lenny would have chosen the asylum. I don't think he would have understood what would really happen.
If I was Lenny, I think I'd prefer the asylum, mostly because I'm kind of afraid of death. But asylums are cool. Maybe with the cellmate you could see demons and stuff and tell good stories.
If I were Lenny, I would have chosen death over the asylum. Asylum just seems boring.
I think Lenny would have chosen death.
Lenny would have definitely chosen the asylum just because he's, stupid, and he wouldn't realize that the asylum would probably have, way more consequences and just a grueling, painful, disturbing death rather than a quick and painless one. He's not intellectually there enough to realize which one would be the best bet for him.
Probably took George. I think it was a heat of the moment. Didn't give much time to it. It would have taken me quite a while to be able to make that decision.
If I had to kill Lenny like George did, I would probably hesitate for quite a while. If I did manage to pull the trigger, I think I'd end up killing myself right after, because I'm just, didn't like that easily, whoa, that was messed up.
It probably took George a good 10-20 minutes to decide whether or not he wanted to kill Lenny.
I think George decided to kill Lenny right there in the moment.
I think it was a sort of rush of the moment thing. I think that Lenny, as soon as Lenny ran away and George figured out what happened, he decided that he knew, just like the previous question, that if George didn't take care of him now, that he'd end up with, the worst side of things, whereas he'd be in the asylum his entire life, or he'd have to get shot by Curly, and that'd be really lame.
If I were under the same circumstances as George, it would have taken me a long time to make that decision.
If I were under the same circumstances as George, I probably would have made the decision near immediately because I'm a little bit cruel.
If I were in the same circumstances as George, I would have done it right there in the moment.
If I was under the same circumstances as George, I would have to say that I'd probably make it rather quickly too. Probably wouldn't have known what to do so quickly, whereas George grabbed the gun immediately, stole it, and went out to do his thing. I probably would have contemplated it for a while.
It's closing time. It's closing.
In 10 years, I see George living on a small farm, maybe with Candy and Slim.
I see George being very alone for the rest of his life. I mean, he kind of chose that path.
In 10 years, I see George in a bar, getting drunk, wasting away, being sad and stuff.
In 10 years, I could see George hanging himself out of guilt.
I see George in 10 years living on the farm.
I see George in 10 years probably doing alright. I mean, obviously, after Lenny's death, it would take a while for him to recover, but after that, I think that he would probably move forward in life, almost taking the opportunity given from Lenny's death to make some accomplishments in Lenny's honor.